Namaskar. Welcome to a new series, The Gunner's Side. And I have two returning generals and a new general, Lieutenant General Raj Shukla ji. Let's welcome the guests. Namaskar, gentlemen. How are you?
Thank you very much.
So we have General Ravi Shankar, General Raj Shukla, and General Harimohan Iyer. And this is a recurring event that's going to air on Mondays at 8 p.m. live on Ganeshot and PGurus. And today we are going to talk about the impact of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. And why would Kingdom of Saudi Arabia invest money in a sinking ship? This is the question from a geopolitical perspective, from the armed forces perspective. That's what we're going to talk about. As always, I'm going to start with our opening batsman. General Ravi Shankar, you lead the charge, sir. Then I'll have General Raj Shukla and then General Harimohan Iyer. Over to you, sir.
Oh, thanks a lot, Sree Iyer ji. First, at the outset, I must say it's a great pleasure to me to be alongside my two gunner compatriots, General Raj Shukla and General Harimohan. Both of them are gunners of repute, retired at top. The second point about all three of us is we have skin in the game, unlike other retired people who have no skin in the game many times. But we are all still somewhere there. In one form or other, we are connected with the government. And what you're going to get from all three of us is something responsible, insightful, and what actually is good for India. That's the second part of the story. And being, a gunner trio who's going to be ably anchored by Sree Iyer ji, we thought we'll call it the show of the gunner's sight, because the gunner's sight is the most important thing. And we're going to be on target and on time every time. Right? That's the mark of a gunner. He's always on target and on time. And this was shown in Kargil. It was also shown in Op Sindoor. Many didn't notice because it was the gunners who took out 7 targets out of the 9 targets and did it very quietly. There was no fuss. End of story. But then that's not the case. Today we're going to talk about the PACT, KSA-Pak, and what should India do. There are a lot of commentary on what India should do, not do, no worry, big worry, all that. But I think when you unravel this pact, there are many layers to it. Principally, there are 5 actors in this: Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, USA, China, and of course India. What I'll do is I'll outline the interests the way I perceived it, and maybe later on we'll see what India should do based on what General Harimohan and General Raj Shukla follow up with. Look, let's start from KSA. The Saudis are very clear. They want, security of their monarchy, nothing more. They want to secure their monarchy, retain control of the Muslim world through the Pak mercenary army, because Pakistan is a rent-a mercenary kind of a system. And so that's how it is. They want to retain primacy over the Middle East or West Asia and over Turkey and Iran, and of course keep Iran at bay. And all this is of course an outflow of what happened in Qatar. That is well known by now. Okay, let's look at the US angle. US has a lot of fingers in this, a lot of eggs to fry. It wants to get into Central Asian republics. It wants to, is hunting for resources here. It wants to keep China away. It wants to retain control of the Middle East. And the convenient, guy to do all this is Pakistan. Pakistan is their patsy for all these things. And of course, there's Trump's own personal interests in resources, critical minerals, and crypto. So they put their eggs in the Pakistani basket. And don't forget the Nobel Prize. Right? And you can't forget also the fact that Trump has been showing around the White House model to Munir and Shabash, as if they are the guys who are to approach the remodeling of White House. So that's the way they are. And of course, the macro issue, we shouldn't forget the subtext. By getting into Pakistan, trying to get into Afghanistan, and also trying to get an entry into the Central Asian republics. USA is trying to get a foot into this region in a place where it can control or influence Russian actions, Chinese actions, Indian actions, Afghanistan itself, Pakistan itself, and Iran. Now, all these, any one of these big players or troublesome players can upset the American apple cart, and that is why obviously it is seeking the 𝗣𝗏 base. So that's the American pie in this whole story. What about the Chinese? The Chinese are over the moon. They feel, look, this is a temporary arrangement which the USA has midwifed. But long term, they're looking at it. What is it long term the Chinese are looking at? And I am now not talking off the air. This is what the Chinese have written. They say over a period of time, Pakistan will get money from Saudi Arabia, and with that money, Pakistan might or might not buy weapons from USA, but definitely they'll buy weapons from us. So they're looking at arms sales, which will mean reviving their economy. Second, then China has a deeper game. They want to get back into the Middle East. They were shut out of the Middle East following the Iran-Israel war. They have only economic stakes there. No military stakes, no nothing, no influence. US influence reigns supreme today from the Mediterranean to the west coast of Pakistan or the western border of Pakistan. That's the way it is. And China wants to get back into the game here. They see this as an opportunity. And third, of course, with the internal problems in China and the way things are going and the way their military is having problems, the generals being sacked, weapons not performing in war, and their own demographic decline and the deflation and many things which the Chinese are reluctant to get to war or get into a skirmish with India. At the same time, they need to put pressure on India, and hence they have to arm Pakistan, and they have to arm Pakistan at the cost of Saudis. And this is a long-term thinking. Now let's get to Pakistan. Pakistan is very happy. It's over the moon after this pact because it's back in business, rent-a-mercenary business. And taking the Saudi lead, other states in the Gulf might turn to Pakistan this whole story of Islamic bomb and all will start playing up. But fundamentally, these chaps are going to be the mercenaries who are going to be operating there, for which they'll charge a hefty sum. The Pakistani generals are also over the moon because they see nice bungalows and properties and things like that going up. They're nice cut from these arm deals and all that. But most importantly, Pakistan now gets a gateway to arm itself. It will tell America, if you want resources, we need to, fight against the Baluchis. So please give us money to, arm ourselves or give us arms. And that naturally will get diverted to India. The same story with China. China will be just too happy to do it. So the whole story, the net, maybe not now, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ahead, it is Pakistan which is going to get stronger economically and militarily. And that's the danger which I would look at. Right? So much so for what I had to say initially. Back to you, Sree Iyerji.
Thank you so much, sir. It's my honor to invite General Raj Shukla for the first time on PGurus channel. General Raj Shukla, there's a saying there's a Rajinikanth movie that comes in Tamil. The saying is, Singam Singalatha varum. That means the lion will only come by itself. If 3 people are training their guns at one country, 3 countries are training their guns at one country, which is better? That's the question I asked in the morning on a shorts today. So, General Raj Shukla, your perspective on this, because this is the first time you are coming, sir. I yield the floor to you. You have a very balanced view. You come across as somebody who has got a lot of things in mind, and I would love to have our viewers listen to your perspective on this, sir.
So thank you very much, Iyerji, firstly for calling me on your show. It's a great honor. Secondly, tomorrow happens to be Gunners Day. So if this is your inaugural program with 3 gunner generals, it's very well timed and extremely auspicious. So from your platform, happy Gunners Day to everyone. Tomorrow is Gunners Day. Now coming to this, the WhatsApp that you sent me you said that in this pact between Pakistan and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, what is new and is this renewed salience for a failed state? That's the two questions you posed. So I'll focus on them. I was just thinking that what I suspect has happened is this. You take your mind back to Sindoor. After the few reversals on the first night, by 10th of May, the military decimation of Pakistan was so complete and so overwhelming. It is something only all three of us did on maps. This business of 𝗪𝗡𝗙, Raigwin, everything was smashed. I was surprised. Look at it, we talk so much of Sino-Pak collusivity. On the 10th of May, I asked, where were the J-10s? Where were the J-17s? They were scurrying backwards for cover. All that 𝗤𝗍𝗫𝗐𝗍 stuff had been decimated by 10th of May. And nobody knows this better than the Pak military. It realized that India could be, the potent Indian military could be an existential threat. And I re-emphasize it. I challenge anyone on this. They were naked, vulnerable. The AD was in shambles. If we had gone along more for 48 hours, they would have been held to pay for Pakistan. Another thing that we did this time was that we called their nuclear bluff. This business which the West had been endorsing for long, that in a nuclearized subcontinent, you can go on a terror rampage under nuclear cover. We said, try doing it now and see what we'll do to you. After this, Pakistan has been running for shelter left, right, and center. And so what does a garrison state do? It has no other, arrows in its quiver. No business, no economy, no commerce, no technology. It just has a military. So what does it, I think General Shankar also mentioned this. It is basically a mercenary enterprise with a state attached to it. The military, you see, Asim Munir leads Shehbaz Sharif by the nose to White House. So unke paas aur options kya hai? So they do the same thing. They renew their rentier impulses. So these desperate overtures to USA, which General Shankar outlined, all that cyber and oil and flattery tax, shacks and all that, that's something India cannot do. We are a very different nation. Even if Trump was hoping that we would do it, we simply can't do it. As far as connect with the Saudi Arabia is concerned, I recall that this relationship with the Pakistan has been going on for long. 65, 71, 𝗤𝙑𝗫𝗏 commanded a brigade in Saudi Arabia. He also came to the aid of Jordan to massacre Palestinians. Raheel Sharif is still commanding some kind of alliance, counter-terror alliance of 39 countries, though of late it has got no salience. And most noteworthy, I recall that in the financing of the Pakistan nuclear weapons program, there was a tacit understanding that we are financing this program. They also came to their help during the 1998 sanctions. But the understanding was that if we are in trouble, we will need your weapons, perhaps with Chinese missiles. So Saudi Arabia is widening its security net. But see, there are many complications. Though this pact has brought the only nuclear-armed nation in the Islamic world closer to the Gulf's most, ambitious state, but there are problems. Say tomorrow, Pakistan decides to give its nuclear weapons to Saudi Arabia in response to some Israel situation. Will such proliferation be tolerated by Israel and USA? Or will it invite a B2 kind of action? So, शुरू के दौर में ये सब चीजें बड़ी सुहानी लगती हैं, but when you go into the details of it, I don't think it is a very, very deep pact. Having said this, this is the irony of international relations, that from our most comprehensive military victory, we have unfortunately, for a host of measures, we are confronted with a new strategic reality which is dire. Look at our western horizons. China gives them weapons, most of all these wraparound technologies. They didn't succeed on the 10th May, but if the stock of J20s and HQ90s, KJ500 is followed through, it is going to create problems for us. Turkey, with its new caliphate ambitions, is actively in Pakistan and Bangladesh. The Minister of Defense has been there, Minister of Trade Industries has been there, and now this Islamic flank in Bangladesh. We have seen both Asim Munir and DG-ISPR say that the next attack will come from the east. The DG-ISA has traveled there many times. So this China, Turkey, Western, Eastern horizons are a problem for India. If next time there is a terror attack in the northeast, what do? Our doctrine says hit Pakistan. Now we will hit Bangladesh also. So it has these three patrons. It has got a new flank. And the Americans also may not be as friendly to India. So what I'm saying is that there is a new strategic reality. Not that we don't have any options, but we must acknowledge it. And one last point I'd like to make, this is my view, both General Shankar and General Harimohan may disagree. You see what's happened to the Indo-US relationship. Of course, Mr. Iyer, you stay in the United States, I'm very far away, but I follow this MAGA stand very carefully. And Steve Bannon and all have been making some kind of argument that India is not a natural partner of USA. It is an economic and strategic rival. And the story that they are spinning is that, listen, we were foolish enough to accommodate the Chinese into the WTO, couple with them all technologies, and today they have become a threat to us. India is not too far down in the power hierarchy. Should we similarly fuel its rise? And they have come to the conclusion it's not worth it. So I'm saying that in the US strategic calculus, India, as it gains power, is steadily becoming a rival. Also, for a whole other set of reasons, the Americans have concluded that they do not have the military prowess to confront China and Taiwan. They are retreating from Asia. They are a challenged hegemon. So if they are not going to, contest China, at least militarily, India is not of much use to them. So in this a strategic view of the world, India is not very useful. So let's prop up Pakistan. So these are, I think, some of the issues in terms of the complexities of geopolitics that are at play. And one last point I would wish to make, that India's rise, our rise will be undermined by partners, friends, neighbors alike. It should not astound us. The one problem that I have with our establishment is that we punch below our strategic weight. With the kind of economic advantage we have with Pakistan, it should have been a combat overmatch. It should not have been this touch and go. And if we invest in many of the issues that General Shankar and I are talking about, we make our strategic outlook more robust, invest in defense budgets, whole lot of stuff. Look at this theatre command debate. You must not be following it in India. The first unfortunate fallout of Sindoor is that the Air Force has said, let's walk back on the theatre commands. Now, if this is the way a rising power, looks at things around it, then it is our fault. So I'm saying there are challenges, but they can be met. We need to do just two things: build capacities, and invest in deterrence. I mean, those are my opening remarks. Look forward to what Hari has to say.
Thank you so much, sir. General Harimohan Iyer, I'd like your opening statements, and I have a few questions forming in my mind, and I'll start asking those after that. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sree, and it's an honor to be on a panel with two of my esteemed bosses. Both General Raj Shukla and General Shankar have been my bosses in life, and they have possibly guided me in where I have reached. So thanks to them, I have reached where I have reached. So going ahead with it, when I look at this entire conundrum, when you look at the Islamic nations, particularly if I was to say Central Asia and Middle East, other than Pakistan, every other nation has got enough money to look after itself. The only, if I was to use the word beggar amongst these Islamic nations in the Middle East, is Pakistan. The other one one could have looked at is Afghanistan, but I still put Afghanistan a touch higher than Pakistan in terms of its capacities today. So if you look at that, what has Pakistan got to offer? It has taken loans from each and every one of these Islamic nations in some form or the other. And I was listening to one of their very highly rated analysts, and he says we don't seem to be in a position to be repaying any of our loans in the next 15 to 20 years. So what can they return in nobody is going to keep investing in you without any returns. So what I see in this particular agreement, when I look at Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, and I'm looking at it individually and not linking with the other things with the two generals I brought up, I take it as an agreement. It is like, take money from us and give us your troops. Now, what happened immediately after that? The very next day, there was a bunch of Pakistani troops which landed up in Saudi Arabia, and they were put on the Houthi border. Right? It has also freed the Americans from looking at Yemen, and they'll start now focusing on Iran. So it is quite possible that Saudi Arabia has demanded this kind of an agreement. And since Pakistan wanted a face saver, they just added this one line to it that an aggression on either of it will be termed as aggression on the other. So it is we haven't seen the fine print of this whole pact, but it is, I feel that this is just a rider which has been added just to keep Pakistan amused, people of Pakistan amused, because ultimately Pakistani soldiers are going to die in Saudi Arabia. And it is not a new thing, like General Raj Shukla brought out. I was in the UN, one of the missions in the late 90s, and two of the colleagues from Pakistan, they had come after a horrid tenure in Saudi Arabia. Their only face saver was, they said, 𝗥𝗘𝗙𝗥𝗏. That is the only thing they managed to do. Otherwise, they said it was a terrible experience. Though they got a lot of money for it, but then that is all about. So it's not something new. 𝗪𝗏 Sharif is still, like General Shukla brought out, leading some kind of a force in Saudi Arabia and thereabouts. What he's doing, nobody knows. What he's got, nobody knows. The second thing is, let's say tomorrow we have another 𝗖𝗡 with Pakistan. What do you think Saudi Arabia is going to do? At best, when I look at it, at best, they may put a temporary sanction, which I am very sure in business interest will go the day ceasefire is declared, because they will say in the thing that the ceasefire has been agreed to, we are going back on our sanctions. I don't think Saudi Arabia can do anything more than that. Third thing which General Shukla also mentioned, and to some extent General Shankar mentioned, is about the nuclear issue. You see, when Pakistan developed this bomb, and I know that they didn't have the funds to develop this bomb, they have borrowed from all over. And Saudi Arabia has been one of their prime financiers for this program. If you recollect, in the 90s or late 80s, this bomb was being proclaimed as the great Islamic bomb. They were trying to say that they are the only Islamic nation which is going to have a nuclear bomb. And there were many of the times when some radicals were threatening Israel that Pakistan now has a nuclear bomb and it will bomb them, in retaliation to their activities in Palestine. Will they do it? Can they do it? These are question marks. I don't think any nation, at least Pakistan, is not going to risk, taking on Israel in this kind of a factor. And like General Shukla said, moment they make a statement of like that, both America and Israel are going to come hounding for their nuclear assets. If at all they are theirs, because there is some talk that there are possibly even American assets. If they are American assets, I damn it that they will be given to Saudi Arabia to be applied against Israel or anything. So that being taken aside, I don't see this pact as something which is going to go out of the something which we should be worried about as Indians. But like both the generals said, definitely post this pact, by sending mercenary army into Saudi Arabia, Pakistan is going to generate a large amount of money. That notwithstanding, like General Shankar said, post 𝗖𝗡 and the interest shown by Trump in Balochistan, I am sure the Americans are going to come and start setting up shop if the Chinese allow them to come to Balochistan. It will be very interesting to see how the Chinese react to American exploration of rare earth or whatever it is there in Balochistan. Everybody keeps bringing out a new dimension. I am not too sure. But let's assume there is rare earth and there is oil also. And the Americans decide to come and set shop in Balochistan. Do you think the Chinese are going to say, keep a blind eye to it? I don't think so. In my mind, I think this is going to be a tricky situation for both Pakistan and the other two nations who have invested heavily into it. So to that extent, it are interesting times. I don't get worried on the aspect that two nations in the Middle East have made a pact, and the pact treats that an aggression on one will be treated as an aggression on the other. So let it see, because like we said, Op Sindoor is still not over. We have just paused the operation. Just yesterday, the defense minister made a statement that Operation Sindoor 2 and 3 are also, on the card sometime in the future. So we are looking forward to it, and interesting times. And I think that will be my opening statement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. And see, one interesting thing I noticed, I was looking at India's energy import bill, and consistently I'm noticing that Saudi Arabia commands a $3 premium per barrel. $3. In other words, if India is getting from Russia at $67 per barrel, at the same time, the purchase from Saudi is $70. I don't know why that $3 extra premium is. Now, what I believe India has done, and this is something that again India is failing in its narrative, the moment this thing was announced, India has already been reducing its dependence on Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. In 2024, if you look at the pie chart of India's energy imports, India was importing 17% of its energy requirements from Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in 2024. That number has come down to 14% in 2025. And it is believed that India has hinted that that number could go down to zero if the intent in this agreement is going to be carried out by Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It works to that effect. And it is believed that KSA has walked back some of the things that have been said in this. Unfortunately, none of this has made it to the press because India is wrapped up in something else. General Ravi Shankar, India is now in a position where it can pretty much say that I will get energy from you and I will not get energy from you. Is this something that India should be doing more keenly and making sure that people realize that a considerable chunk of their businesses, after all, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has 18,000 princes and princesses, all of whom have giant-sized egos that MBS is managing. Should India start using its energy stick to try and get some of these things under control? Your thoughts, sir?
First and foremost, if you start looking at Saudi Arabia, India is looking in the wrong direction completely. Whatever happens in the Saudi Arabian Peninsula is not our business. Let's be very clear. This $3 differential, which you said $3 premium you give to Saudi Arabia, is because you get sweet crude from there. The Russian crude is sour crude. So that's the difference. So actually it's at the same rate. Effectively at the same rate. So let's not this thing. Second, we have huge stakes in Saudi Arabia because Saudi Arabia has invested in you. Already over $300 billion, and that is to go up further. I think $30 billion investment they have done, and that is to go to 300 plus more. Then you are committed with the Saudi Arabians on the IMEC. And you are committed on the IMEC. The IMEC is India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. Yeah. And it is in the interest of Europe this corridor goes through. So there are multilateral interests in this corridor going through. So, and Saudi Arabia is part of this deal. So I don't think we need to worry too much about Saudi Arabia. The worry actually is Pakistan. You need to focus on Pakistan. In between, I couldn't hear what General Raj Shukla had to say because my net fluttered. I had to go out. So, but having said that, I got the drift of what he was trying to say. It's Pakistan that you have to worry about. Pakistan has got leeway. That leeway, what happens in Saudi Arabia is secondary to me. What happens in Pakistan is important. Like, Hari spoke about, mines and all that. Chinese are already at a place called Sandak. They're mining copper from there. They're having problems. this place, 𝗥𝗘𝗙𝗥𝗚, where 𝗣𝗽𝗥 has already got a stake, 50% stake in 𝗣𝗽𝗥, and money is already exchanged hands. And that is now further being going transferred to the Americans, where they have done said there's considerable gold and copper out there. It's proven, but that how well good it is, how much they can transport it is all a secondary point. And that's just 150 kilometers away from what the Chinese are. There might be competition, but at the same time, there's going to be cooperation. Because the Chinese and the Americans, at the end of the day, when it comes to resource, they're going to sit in the same pit and get gold out or copper out or whatever out, and they'll share resources to see the security out from there. And it is not within the American capability to give resource, to give, security from the Chagai Hills, where both these are, down to the port, which is the port, Gwadar. So you might see the Chinese and the Americans cooperate on this issue. Make no mistake on what I'm trying to say. Already you see Trump sucking up to Xi Jinping. If you see the last call which Trump did to Xi Jinping, he was almost pleading Xi Jinping. So the layers in this are different from what we have normally thought of. You have to understand that. And if the Americans and the Chinese come there and sit in Balochistan, right, unless you fund the Baloch militancy, those people are going to get dried out. And if Americans go and sit in Bagram, there's going to be a problem. So what does it tell you? It tells you that if you have to put your footprint still in Afghanistan, look at the long-term INSTC to go in, International North-South Transport Corridor, and the fact that you've been now, the waivers have been taken off 𝗤𝗏𝗄𝗏, and you need 𝗤𝗏𝗏, you're invested in 𝗤𝗏𝗏. You need to open your gates to Iran. This Iran-India friendship is old, it's not new, and they're open to it. And they see a problem in this whole deal. The Sunni deal, this is all, at the end of the day, it's a Sunni deal. It doesn't affect us, materially at this point of time. Even if we get into Op Sindoor too, Saudi Arabia will come and do nothing. They can do nothing. They also know that. But the problem is the American support. The Chinese support. Where did we lose out in Op Sindoor? We lost out in strategic communication. Who helped Pakistan in strategic communication? After blowing all these airfields to smithereens, on 10th morning, I completely agree with Raj Shukla when he says Pakistan was naked, didn't know what to do. Its nuclear capability could not be deployed if it had. That's all gone. But they still feel everyone won the war. Everyone talks of Pakistan having won this war. Where did this come from? This came from the collusion. Pakistan, Chinese networks went on overdrive. The American networks went on overdrive. Please understand this. And we didn't have a network to go. So our focus has to be on strategic communication. If there's anything what Op Sindoor tells us. And the third important thing, now Pakistan is going to get money, whether it is over the table, under the table, everything, it doesn't matter. And the two biggest arms suppliers, China and USA, might open their doors to these fellows. If that is the case, what does India have to do? I mean, India has to realistically start thinking differently. And what is that? Atmanirbharta. Invest more into defense. You have no choice but to increase your defense expenditure. You have no choice but to increase your nuclear deterrent. Because now we are faced square with, China and Pakistan. Very clear. And remember, I mean, till now, till say about even a month back, 2 months back, you ask any army officer, he would have told you, our first problem is China, bigger long-term problem. Pakistan will handle. I think that thinking is out of the window. I might be in the minority of one, but I must state it. Because today Pakistan is being funded by, Saudi Arabia, resourced by America, and given technology from China. This is the paradigm we are seeing. And if we are not alive to it and we start looking at the Arabian Peninsula, we are out of the equation. Right? So we have to start looking very seriously inward. Are we looking at data commands? Are you looking at organizational structures? Yeah, 𝗥𝗘𝗍 or the rail-mounted 𝗥𝗘𝗍 is a damn good thing to happen. I think one of the best things to happen, right? But are you looking at a structure to put all these strategic forces together? Can you put ambiguity in your whole story? Nuclear ambiguity, right? Now we have to start seriously thinking. And we also have to understand that this time we are going to be alone. Next time we are alone, on our own. Yeah, Russia will help you. But Russia is an outside power. It's not an inshore power. How much will it be able to help you? So you have to go ahead of the curve today. I mean, it's a good thing that the Su-57E people are talking and people are coming to Nasik and all that. We're going in the right direction. It's not as if I'm being critical of what the government is doing or not doing, but it needs to do more. You need to do internally more. You need to invest into technology. You know, the time for talking is over, the way I look at it. The time for doing is more important now. Right? And I like the views of both my respected generals who are with me to weigh in on this. My interest is what? India. And my focus is what today? Pakistan. China will handle China. And we shouldn't also be under the mistaken impression that we can swing towards China. Sorry. After that SEO meet, after all those things, what has China done? They've done nothing. And the problem and the dilemma with China is this. You want China for reviving your economy, right? You might go to him. But if you do that, you're going to be more dependent on him than you already are, and you're in an adverse situation today. China might want to come to you to open up your economy and use your economy and revive himself because he's in a damn bad shape. But the problem in doing so is he has to invest in India and impart technology to India. That is arming his own enemy, which he's not prepared to do. You read the Chinese people, how they think. Unless you get this balance right, there's no way you can do anything with China. And I don't see it happening. Neither is they going to relent on the border. On the border anyway, they're not going to relent. So you are in a tough situation. Our paradigm has changed and it's better we start thinking differently. Yeah, back to you.
Thank you so much, sir. General Raj Shukla, I'd like to hear your inputs on what General Ravi Shankar just said. I have a couple of questions, but I'm going to defer until I hear all of you one more time, and then we can go to my questions, then perhaps viewers' questions. Over to you, sir.
So General Shankar said, stop talking and start acting. So let me recommend 3 action points. One is, the first thing is that I was a little... I was happy when the Prime Minister spoke of Sudarshan Chakra after Sindhu. What was he meaning? I think as a politician, he was sensing that India's threats are so huge and they are not nation-focused. Pakistan today, it may be China tomorrow, it could be somebody else. I mean, even the Americans have started misbehaving. So the Sudarshan Chakra is a defense citadel, which would mean 3 things today. One is a major upgradation in your AD topology, something like what Israel has done, which will take a decade. With this, have a long-range instrument of precision, which deterrs. I'm going to say such an instrument should have a global strike range, because you don't know who's your... North Korea has many faults, but they have strategic clarity. Their missiles point straight at the United States. So I am saying this kind of Sudarshan Chakra and these 2 limbs should be infused with technology, AI, quantum and all. I think that is what he was sensing, and therefore he said, it'll take about a decade. So we need to build up a strategic military technological prowess. One gentleman under whose, umbrella leadership this whole thing can be done is Mr. Rajiv Malhotra, whom you got on your show, I think, yesterday.
Yes,
I've been following him for years. When I was Army Commander Artrack, I had called him for AI. a talk on AI after reading his book 6 years back. He's extremely far-sighted, very honest in his opinions, forthright, and he's got an integrated worldview of technology, the strategic stuff, the cultural stuff, and all that. You need somebody of his genius to kind of marshal this. It is possible. Today we have the talent, we have everything. Look at what General Shankar said about defense. We have been cautioned in the military never to talk of defense budget because, it is not the responsible thing to do. I find young economists in India today, a guy called 𝗟𝗘𝗙𝗦𝗧𝗏, 𝗪𝗚 economists arguing that defense pump primes the economy. Music to my ears. They said that if you invest 1 rupee in defense, it adds 1 rupee to your GDP, fiscal multiplier of 2. And when we have a strategic environment that is grimmer than Israel, why not step up our defense budget? I just don't understand this 1.98%. And it is not to war fight, it is to create deterrence so that we do not need to war fight. So that is one argument. The second argument, and here I will get crucified by my foreign policy friends, this is the strategic autonomy. Strategic autonomy is a prized object, but it has never worked when push comes to shove. Look at 62. What happened to Prime Minister Nehru? He wrote a letter begging Kennedy for everything. 71, it was the Indo-Soviet Friendship Treaty. So if strategic autonomy means we are going to get friendless, I'm afraid it's not a very wise strategy. We need a technology partner. And look at what is actually happening now. Americans, and I'm pointing to the difficulties, it's not easy. For all their promises, starting from DTTI and all that, Hari and I have seen it, Indus X, not a sausage has come. Not a sausage. The Russians, I mean, wo hamare dost hain, they were responsible for the PLA's rise in its first phase. In its second phase, they are giving them 5th and 6th generation aircraft engines, quieter submarines, and a whole lot of missilery. Humko nahi mil raha hai. We are getting the combat platforms. Now, these are the challenges of technology. So we have to revisit this whole thing of strategic autonomy and do some Sam Dam Dand Bhed. Jahan se mil jaye, copy karo, kuch karo, reverse engineer karo. Otherwise, we are not going to get to the next level. I have heard the story far too long. That is one. And the last thing is, of late, we have been speaking loudly without a sharp enough stick. I would strongly urge our countrymen to speak softly for a while and build your capacities. We seriously need to go into that Deng phase of hide and bide. Even today, China is living in the house that Deng built. And I want to give some figures. Look at why Trump backs off. And this is linked to your question of energy security. It is not just energy security, but strategic choke points across domains. I mean, look at these staggering figures. China versus USA. Manufacturing capacity 2 times. Power generation twice. Coal production thrice. Steel production 11 times. Cement 20 times. Rare earth, 90% of the global market is Chinese. 90% of batteries is Chinese. The next industrial revolution, industrial robots, they are 7 times larger than USA. If that is the equation between USA and China, what is it with us? So we really have to get into hide and bide, ensure some kind of fail-proof deterrence along the LAC, and seriously start building these capacities. I want to make one last point. 2002, China's manufacturing capacities were half of that of USA. 2022, they become twice. In consequence, their military-industrial complex is 5 to 6 times more efficient. Without a larger manufacturing base, digital base, our military capacities are not going to grow. We are looking for Su-57 stealth fighter. China is churning out its 300 stealth fighter. So unless we build our capacities, Atmanirbharta and defense and all is a good beginning, but we have a long way to go. So I'm saying 3 things. Look at our defense in a much larger frame. Build a powerful defense citadel. It makes sense to revisit these shibboleths, strategic autonomy. If it's not paying dividend, revisit all these issues. And the third, as I said, that is my original first argument, capacity, because it will lead to deterrence.
Thank you so much, sir. General Harimohan Iyer, your thoughts, and then I'll have a couple of questions. I'm not sure how much time we are going to have for the viewers' questions. We will try to accommodate it. Over to you, sir.
So I'll try and keep it short because we'll take some more questions. Firstly, sir, I can't agree more with both General Shankar and General Shukla. The name of the game is capacity building. And it can't be more apparent today when you have two live borders. You have so-called friend pulling all kind of strikes to push you onto a corner. The person whom you were considering a friend is himself in a corner. Russia, as I look at it, is struggling to stay out of, or it wants to get out of the Ukraine war, possibly on a winning side, and it is trying to come out of it. So it will take it time for it to become as strong as it possibly was maybe 5 years ago. That having said, China, like General Shukla said, is growing, and it's growing leaps and bounds. We are playing catch up. We have missed the bus at least on 2 occasions. With General Shukla has got many a times he's been saying that. But it's time we got our act together. In terms of defense production, we have to go all around as far as production is concerned. Possibly some good citers are one may not be very palatable to you, but H1B, I look at it as a bright spot. I want our talent to stay in India and produce for India. Why should it go to the Americans? So that is one thing which I feel may be a game changer for India. For that, we have to build capacities. If I have to hold back talent, I have to nurture that talent. I have to ensure that the talent gets all that he needs to make the things happen. That is something which is, I guess, the government's problem now. They have to step aside from, political overtures like, reservations and all that and start generating merit. I am totally in support of, spending more on defense, especially defense capabilities. We have to make our public sector units function. Even now, when you look at our erstwhile ordnance factories or whatever these corporate OFs are concerned, their output is very, very, very poor. Very slow. They are as sluggish as they were 10 years ago, and there's no change. We have to pull them up. All these big-time industrialists who have created their own defense architecture, they're yet to deliver big-ticket projects. So they are trying to show that they have invested X amount of money. I saw the defense minister the other day saying that, our defense exports has grown multiple times. But that's not the answer. The answer is, have we become more capable than what we were 2 years ago? Unfortunately, I don't see it in the forces. I have retired just a year back, and nothing much has changed as far as the equipment or the capacities of the forces are concerned. We are still where we were maybe 5 years ago. Yes, we are getting into some sort of technologies in terms of loiter ammunitions, etc., but they're not far and few. We have to invest big time. General Shukla used to say, 5% of the GDP. That's why we used to say, sir, 5 is still too large. He used to say, chalo, 3%. We can't be sub 2% and keep saying that, our defense budget is increasing. We are not doing much. It is not even catering for the inflation that the country is going about. As far as Pakistan is concerned, I have a little different opinion to General Shankar. I don't think Balochistan is going to, become a money spinner, at least for the current 5 to 6 years. It is going to take time. And I don't think Americans are going to, come and set up shop very easily. They will wait. And whether America and China are going to play ball in Balochistan, well, if they do, then it will be a game changer for world politics. Because so far I have not seen them doing it anywhere else other than their own business. And over a period of time, till Trump came in the first term, he was totally going against Chinese business interests. His MAGA will take a big hit if he starts cooperating with Chinese. So there are some issues which I'm sure people are going to be keenly watching, especially in terms of how Pakistan nurtures itself. And I don't see too much of money coming back to Pakistan through the Saudi Arabia Pact also, because I feel most of the money will be, deducted as EMIs for their loans. And what will come to them will be peanuts. And I remember that's why I said, one of my colleagues was telling me that, time in Saudi Arabia is very bad because they make you sign a document for X amount of money and what you get in hand is much less. So there are things to it. I'm sure things will become a little more transparent as days go by. I personally feel we shouldn't be very alarmed with this pact per se, but yes, we should be alarmed to the fact that Americans have joined hands with Pakistan. Chinese haven't let go of their hand with Pakistan, so Pakistan has become like a bridge between two superpowers, and we are faced with two live enemies on two borders. Can we do with what we have today? Is downsizing of the forces the right way forward? Is putting the theatre commands away for a further time the right way forward? Or is capacity building the answer of the day? These are questions which I'm sure we can keep discussing over a period of time. Each of them are a debate by itself. So I'll leave it at that. My point is, let's see how things open up, both in Saudi Arabia and Pakistan.
Thank you so much, sir. General Shankar, I'm back to you. You said that there could be increasing cooperation between America and China. Let me pose a question to you. Go back to the tweet that Trump put out about 3-4 days ago. He told Afghanistan, we need the entire control of Bagram base, or else very bad things are going to happen to you. And what did Afghanistan say? We are not going to give you 1 inch. Sir, the question I have is for you. This is my information, and it is usually very reliable. The information I have is what US is not controlling in Bagram is now being controlled by the Chinese.
Okay, fine. I don't agree with that, because the Chinese also don't have a great foothold in Afghanistan. Right? Their foothold is also very shaky. The Taliban are playing a different game, and their game is very risky. Now, we have to understand, the crux of whole thing, what should India do? In this, the KSA-Pak is irrelevant to me. That's what I come back. What should India do? That's what Raj Shukla focused on. And, Hari gave a very important thing. Pakistan has always been a midwife between America and China. That's their history. This entire business of USA funding China and, that revival, all was midwifed by, this fellow who died, Kissinger, coming to Pakistan, hopping over to China, going and meeting Mao Zedong, coming back, taking Nixon along the next year, and that thing happened in 1972. The same thing is happening again. If we don't see history, we will be consigned to live through it again more unprepared. And to that extent, I completely agree with both what they have said, that our preparation is more important. It doesn't matter what they do in Afghanistan. What will they do on our borders? That's more important to me. Okay. And I completely go with Raj Shukla when he says we should have 3 to 5% of defense expenditure. Unfortunately, to carry out defense expenditure, you need an organization to carry out that expenditure, which we don't have. So even if you put that money, it will not get spent. You need a system. Our system is weak. In fact, the weakest aspect of our defense capability building, it's not new. For the past 20 years, is our defense finance or defense finance system. Okay, that is something which we need a major redo. If you can redo that, a lot of things will come back. Right, and of course, both of you mentioned about Rajiv Malhotra. I have a different opinion of him, but that I leave it out. That's a different this thing. But we need to grow our homegrown expertise and technology. It's not as if we don't have. We don't need Rajiv Malhotra to come from USA to tell us how to handle technology in India. That's the way I look at it. Right? And I'm not talking of a blind shot, but I've read his books. I'm talking from that perspective. Yeah, this is my view.
Thank you so much, sir. Divergent views are a must. If you are going to call yourself an intellectual channel, you have to allow for divergent views. And I'm completely appreciative of all your generals' viewpoints. Sir, we have to take some questions now. And I'd like to plant one thought in all of us mind, because not next Monday, but the following Monday, we're going to talk. One of the things I'd like to talk about is what should India's strategy be towards Iran? Because this Chabahar thing is now going to, it's also going to deny Afghanistan some food grains that India was sending to them. From a humanitarian perspective, should India look at that and continue with paying whatever the ransom for that is? Let's include that possibly as a topic for the next session. But let's take some questions now, if you don't mind, sir.
Yes, please.
So we have a few questions, and it will sometimes be directed to a specific general, but the others can weigh in also on these things. Starting with Amitesh Behra's question for General Raj Shukla. What are your views on J-35 catapult electromagnetic takeoff from Fujian?
Game changing. See, though I'm from the army, let me say this, that the time has come to turn decisively to the seas. China has a 400 ship navy growing to 500. Very soon, it's going to be in the IOR. And we are at a time where Navy has a big advantage in the sense that of the three services, it is most Atmanirbhar. They just churned out the 100 ship. It was totally indigenous. So both for strategic reasons and for industrial reasons, we need to make a major turn to the seas. It should show up in budgets. It should show up in investments, because if we don't do it, we are going to face a strategic squeeze 10 years from now, both from the LAC and the IOR. In the IOR, we could build an A2AD kind of system. I would recommend, if you get Mr. Admiral Monty Khanna on your show, a very bright naval officer, he talks of not a Malacca dilemma, he talks of a IOR dilemma. Chinese are hugely dependent on the IOR for their forays, further towards the West Asia and all that. We can seriously be a threat in being. And in doing so, the aircraft carriers, this is stealth on their aircraft carriers. And you see, stealth is how significant. I'm just keep wondering, why is this debate not up in India? In air power today, you cannot penetrate the contested envelope without stealth. In Sindoor, the two air forces were separated. They couldn't close in. These are BVR combat has stalemated. To break out of it, you need stealth. So it could be Su-57, it could be anything on the land, and at sea, this is going to be absolutely game changing. So the point really is this. I would like to make one point about China. What is China doing? In Taiwan, what are they doing every day? In 2022, in their exercises, they committed 2 brigades. This time they committed a mind-boggling 44 brigades. 2022, it was 1/3 of their amphibious capacity. This time it is 2/3. And why are they doing it? With their capacities, they are popping the questions to the Americans that, do you want to fight? Is it worth a fight? And I am very convinced that a very transactional Trump will say, certainly not. That's the MAGA view. And if that leaked article in Politico is any indication, they are retreating to the Western Hemisphere, because to repair their military, to heal their economy. So in that sense, this capacity building is extremely important. What we do with it is a subsequent matter. In our case, our approach is threat-based. China say ye threat hai, to ab hum karenge. They don't do it that way. They are building capacities across domains, as the Beijing parade showed us. And therefore, I'm saying capacity, capacity, capacity.
Thank you so much, sir. Next question, please. This is for General Harimohan Iyer. Jai Bharat, sir. Saudi should remember Porky army work for dollars is there. Possibly anti-MBS royal family can bribe these mercenary army to get his head. Your thoughts, sir?
This has always been a thought process which people have been thinking of. But, Pakistan army, unfortunately, is, when it goes on these kind of missions, is extremely professional. So they'll go and they'll do the job which they have been told to do. They are very organized in that manner. So I don't see the Pakistani army which is deployed in Saudi Arabia doing anything other than where it is tasked to do. And to the best of my knowledge, they have been tasked to be deployed on the Yemeni border, taking care of the Houthis. So that's too far away from where MBS is, and I don't think this kind of a threat will ever be existing. In any case, there are various layers of security which MBS has, including imported security from your land. So that put aside, Pakistan Army will come nowhere near MBS, even if it is deployed inside Saudi. And they have been there for long time. Like General Shankar said, it's a Sunni kind of an arrangement. It's been there even earlier times. So I don't see this kind of a threat to MBS at all. Thank you.
General Harimohan Iyer, you have touched upon something that I talked about 2-3 years ago. There's a lawsuit going on, if I remember correctly, in Los Angeles. 2 American private military contractors were abused by a prince in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And they have sued for damages. If you read that stuff, and one of the princes, the prince that they are suing, the guy has a huge mansion in LA. Just watch that, viewers, and it's going to blow your mind about how the princes and princesses of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, I'm sure others are not far behind, how they treat the people that they hire for their personal security. It's an eye-opener. Also, one small thing, if you want to understand why Trump is playing nice with China, watch my monologue on looking at what goes into the making of American weaponry, looking at what they have given to the various American subcontractors like the Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, this, that. We did a very detailed analysis. The number will shock you, viewers. 79 to 90% of the components that make up all the arms that US is buying from all these contract manufacturers. You know where it's made? In China. US has a huge problem. I'm an American citizen. I want to tell where we also have a problem. So please don't shoot me down here. Some of you guys will say, hey, listen, this guy is speaking India's interest. No, I'm speaking of the world's interest. This is what US has gotten itself into. Just wanted to touch upon that. Let's go to the next one. This is for General Ravi Shankar. �爾𝗡𝗏 wants to know, nuclear weapons can't be used by anybody for the sake of world survival. At best, it can be a weapon of blackmail till it is not used. General Ravi Shankar.
Yeah, it's a political weapon, and one shouldn't give too much value to it. Right? Unless the geopolitical issues are so hot, no one will think of using it. But at the same time, you should track what the developments each country has in terms of its capacity, in terms of its nuclear capability, in terms of its many other things. Right? That gives you an indication as to how they're going to politically apply it. So it's not as if we all know it's not going to be used, but political blackmail you can't rule out. In fact, you must take it for granted.
Next one, please. We'll have to actually cut off after a couple of questions because we're already over our time limit. And Akash wants to know, the Americans, this is for General Raj Shukla, the Americans are concerned about Bharat's rise and were horrified in the aftermath of Operation Sindoor. They've come running into West Pakistan and East Pakistan with Central Asia and Myanmar. Second part, please. There's another part in this question. Here, I'll just put it up. 1 second. As excuses. Now, given the record Nayara Energy incident, visualize a scenario that Microsoft and Google stop all services to end users in Bharat. Is Bharat cyber ready for such an attack? General Raj Shukla.
So the first part of it pertains to the Indo-US relationship. And
yes.
That I pointed out in my assessment, the primary reason it's on the downside is because America under Trump has decided to take a strategic view of the world. So do a deal with China, retreat from Asia. So India doesn't matter in strategic calculus, and that is why a host of these measures are being wheeled out, from H1B to now pharma, God knows what else. The second point is, now see, cyber. You just forget Microsoft and Google. Now this is my quarrel with the Indian system. We had set up a cyber agency some 7-8 years back. If you see what's happening in the world, 2 commands which have really been upgraded to combatant command status in USA, China, everywhere, it is space and cyber. We are still tugging along with an agency because we do not appreciate truly the value of both things like space and cyber, which I call wraparound technologies. Sindoor showed us that platforms are important, but the wraparound technologies are game-changing. So in the military domain of cyber today, most nations have cyber exploits. They are publicly declared as weapons which, if required, will paralyze cities. I don't think we are moving in that direction. That is one part. And the second point is really, why did our IT talent not metamorphose into this kind of stuff, big tech? Why don't we have Microsoft, Google of our own? We've just started some, email service that Mr. 𝗟𝗡𝗏 𝗍𝗏 was making some reference to it. Even our chip, the Vikram 32, is just a beginning, 10 years late. I mean, so this is what surprises me, and I keep making this point. It is a very serious point about talent. I think in the previous question it came up. The question is not why Indian talent goes abroad. The question is, why can't we retain that talent in India? Our ecosystem is not attractive enough. We have to change it. Somebody, I think Kishore Mehbubani, said if the productivity of the Indians in India becomes even 50% of the productivity of the Indian counterparts in USA, India will be $35 trillion. So if Mr. Iyer is sitting in USA, who will make Microsoft and Google here? It's not going to happen. Else, the AMCA engine is not going to be built by, mediocre engineers. We must face it. And I'm telling you how the system may be regressing. We must need urgent intervention. Today, IIT Bombay, IIT Kanpur graduates are applying for jobs of sub-inspector CBI. Is this what IITs were created for? We should be pushing deep technology. So, I mean, he's entirely right, but unless we address this whole thing about talent, a better ecosystem, and H1B may be a good opportunity now to create this new ecosystem which gives us this Microsoft and Google.
Thank you so much, sir. I was going to say something, but we're out of time. We'll do it another day. Manav-san wants to know, if Israel-US move to regime change Iran, this is for General Harimohan Iyer, can Pakistan KSA-Pak continue beyond this? Also, as US abandons Quad, then what will be other allies do? Taiwan, Japan, Australia, Philippines, etc. General Harimohan Iyer.
Firstly, Israel-US changing regime in Iran doesn't affect the Pak KSA-Pak to any effect, because whichever regime comes in, Iran is not going to change its attitude towards the Sunni state. The Shias and Sunnis will continue to be at loggerheads. So I don't think the American-friendly state is going to ever come in Iran. So that is almost a no-gooder. So let's not talk about it. Iran is a very strong nation, and they will not go back to the pre-74 era. There is no chance. That is one side of it. As far as the Quad is concerned, there was a discussion with some of my friends, and in something I just said the Quad has turned into a straight line. It is just America and Australia left with it, because the Japanese are being bullied to get into a deal, and the Prime Minister has to resign. And India is being bullied again to get into a non-favorable deal. So what will be left of two sides of the Quad is just Australia and America. Australia is something he's not interested in even getting into it. So to best of our knowledge, Quad as it stands, yes, there is a problem with Taiwan. And I don't think the Quad is the answer to it. Taiwan is American interest, and I don't think India, or to that effect even Australia, would like to get its hand dirtied in Taiwan. So whether it's Taiwan or Philippines, it's the American problem. Quad is primarily to prevent any expansion of China into the IOR and towards West Pacific, anything beyond the American interests. So in that count, the Quad was being created, and just like General Raj Shukla just said, if Americans and Chinese make a deal and America pulls out of the Middle East and accepts that the security cover is not needed, Quad is a done thing. I don't think any relevance of Quad will be left after that. That having said, we are still pivotal as far as Quad is concerned, and in the recent statement made by one of our foreign ministry experts, he said that Quad is very much alive, and we are looking forward to hosting the Quad summit next year. So let's see how things roll out.
Thank you so much, sir. This is for General Ravi Shankar. Saurabh Savarwal, thank you so much for your donation. KSA choosing Pak for its definite, कुछ शहर के लोग भी जालिम थे, कुछ हमें मरने to die का शौक भी था. Sir, is China behind this? Your views, General Shankar.
Yeah. First, one word about the Quad. What General Harimohan said. I was speaking to Australian, right, and YouTube channel. I was speaking on it. They're very worried. If the court goes, they are in deep trouble. And they feel that India is their lifeline. And they are not fully confident of USA. They don't want the court to go. But unfortunately for them, they also know that USA will not listen to them. So the court is a huge question mark. We'll leave it at that. I just thought I'll give you the Australian feeling about where they stand. Now, look, I already said, is China behind this whole story? China is behind this whole story. You know, and mind you, again, I'm focused on Pakistan. I'm not interested in KSA. वो होता रहेगा. You read Pakistani authors, the talk which is coming out of Pakistan. You listen to that, interview between 𝗏𝗏𝗘𝗏𝗏 and Tariq Khan. Right? Very clear.
Extraordinary one, Tariq Khan.
Very clear.
Very clear.
The whole story is China. China, Pakistan, KSA. That's the story. The American story is like, what's happening in Bangladesh. Bangladesh, whatever they did, then the Americans are up in the air. Who came in? China. Same thing is going to happen here. So that's why I have said I am not interested. The long-term problem for India is Pakistan, China, KSA. KSA funding, Pakistan fighting, and Chinese technology. That is our problem. And we have to prepare for it accordingly.
Thank you so much, sir. Last one, DR Bones has gifted 5 Gunnershot memberships. Thank you so much,
Thanks
DR
a lot.
Bones. Mombo Jumbo, super sticker.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And that brings us to a close of a fascinating conversation. General Raj Shukla, thank you so much for your introductory session at PGurus. We are hoping that we'll have this extension every Monday, 8 p.m. Viewers, please tune in to PGurus. We are going to have such intellectual discussions, a lot to be covered still, and we will be doing that. We'll do our best to make sure that you get the right information at the right time. Thanks once again, General Harimohan Iyer and Ravi Shankar ji. Namaskar.
Thank you.
Namaskar. Thank you.